Hello and welcome to an FPL video looking at double game week 32. So just to recap before we go into game week 32 and the predictions and who I think will do well and not, it's a big double game week. Just a look back at game week 31 and it's just really the story of my season. So you can say I did say I was going to play my triple captain and I was and ahhing all week. Mane or Salah. I felt that Salah was going to break the duck finally, that he's been on a bit of a barren run. Mane has been in top form, but away from home he'd only scored, I think it was 2 or 3 goals all season before he got a goal and assist in that Fulham game. So it's just a real fine margin. I still finished well above the average points because, like I said, it was a tough game week for everyone. You just got to try and get 11 players on that pitch. But yeah, that was really it. Yedlin got an assist for me, and so did Solanke. He came off the bench and got an assist. Everyone else pretty much just scored points, which is, again, better than a lot of people who didn't even have 11 players. So that's what really tipped me higher than the average and got me some green arrows. But triple captain chip played. Even if you take out that triple captain chip, I still would have finished quite a few points, almost 10 points above average, but it's fine margins. I would have, you can see Mane got 13 points, so it would have been 39 if it's fine margins like that has just not been on my side of the coin this season. So that's the unfortunate thing. That would have been a really good game week. I would have been looking at sort of a really good game week in general, especially if you're using a triple captain, and it just didn't happen for me. But now that, unfortunately, Manchester City's just been confirmed in double game week and they've got some interesting fixtures, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough, and I'm going to also show you a post from Reddit that this is a template for a free hit side. So if you still got your free hit chip, this could be your team for this week. So if you've still got it and you didn't want to make up the points from last week, but here's the problem. If you look at, I'm not going to go through all the comments now underneath, but a lot of the comments are actually saying things like, you know, this is pretty much my team. So it's kind of going to be like a lot of people are going to do really well, or they're all going to do terribly. So I'm just going to have to really grin and bear it. This looks like a really scary, from my point of view, with no double hit available, this looks like a really scary opposition for me to face. They're all playing too. They're all top players. Basically, you look at the weak links here and, you know, goalkeeper's looking certain. Edison's looking great. Wan-Bissaka might concede, so might David Luiz, but always on, could get something. Lindelof, you're looking for maybe 1 clean sheet in those 2 games. Dele Alli is the only sort of weaker one in that midfield, but you expect him to get something at home to Fulham. Then you got Hazard, who's got 2 great fixtures. Sterling, if you play, he's got 2 great fixtures. Pogba, Rashford, Aguero. Jimenez faces tough fixtures, but you would still back him to get something away at Burnley, maybe even something at home to Manchester United. That is a really scary side to be facing in this double game week, and there are a lot of teams on double game week. So my team personally going into the double game week, and I've got a few. I did make 2 changes. So Salah did make way. I'm not saying he's not going to come back into the side, but I needed a couple more double game week players. So Rashford came in for Barnes and Sterling has come in for Salah, and it's that argument of the reason why I got him out in the first place, where it was just too much money, and it's too much money on someone who's bang out of form. He's on the cusp of getting 50 goals for Liverpool, and he's greedy, and I'm not. It didn't feel like he used to be that greedy. I've seen him set up goals, and Liverpool seems to be quite a selfless side, especially people like Bobby Firmino. It just feels like they don't mind if they score or get an assist. They just want the team to win. And it does feel like in the last couple of games that Salah is a little bit too selfish. You do need your strikers and attackers to be selfish to an extent, but some of the chances that he's wasted, or he's rushed, or he's just not laid it off. There was a couple of times where I think it was particularly like the 86th minute or something, I was banging the table when Salah missed that one-on-one chance that Mane put him in for. But other times where they were breaking away, they were countering against Fulham, and he's taking it on, and he could have just laid it off, got an assist, and basically helped Liverpool as a team. But that might be a reason why he got brought off right at the end of the game, sort of as like a warning, the fact that, you know, you're rushing things, you're sort of wasting some chances here. But that's just my opinion. Let me know if you agree with that. It does feel like he's maybe pressured by that 50. He's definitely looking more greedy. But going into the side, I don't feel too scared. I am a bit scared of that template side, and the key one I wanted to bring was Sterling. The fact that My next move, I already know, and it's going to be Solanke out and Wilson in. I do have 0.1 million left remaining, so hopefully his prices, as soon as this game week's done, I'm bringing him in for that. And then that'll give me a really good squad with some really good up-and-coming fixtures. So the only real issue I'm having here is the same age-old argument I've had all season when I had a big puff and a big paddy about Manchester City outfield players. Sterling is not invincible to this rule. You can see he's played 64 minutes when he demolished Watford, 90 minutes, 35 minutes, 90 minutes, 31 minutes. So in the last 5 games, 2 of them he's only played around 30 to 35 minutes. One of them he played 2/3 of the game and he only did 90 minutes. 90 minutes in 5 games isn't good. But the fact that Manchester City have Liverpool hot on the heels, they've got a little bit of break in regards to Champions League. They've got a blank game week next week. Makes me think that if he doesn't play one, he might play the other. Or he might play a lot of one and a bit of another. I don't think he's going to be rested for 2 games. If he is, that just sums up my whole FPL season this year. And I'm just feeling the fact that he's playing against Fulham and he's playing against Cardiff, I would, even if he was only having 1 game this week against one of those sides and he was only going to play for 60 minutes, I'd still want him in my side because he's in red hot form. He seems to be one of the few ones that might not get rotated at City at the moment. It seems like Pep always goes back to Sterling at some point. So even if I see that he doesn't start against Fulham, but he might come on in the 65th minute for the last 25 minutes or so, I'd still kind of think he's going to get something from that game. So if there's going to be a City player that I'd go for, probably Sterling or Aguero. As for the rest of the side, it's pretty much the same. So I did take a -4 hit, but remember if you balance excuse me, if you balance that over 2 games, it's not really a -4. It's kind of like a -2 and a -2. So them even just getting 2 points and not really getting anything sort of leaves me on 0, which obviously isn't ideal, but that's just worst case scenario that I'm not taking a -8 or -12 hit. So the next round will be Wilson in because they've got some good fixtures and they don't get any blank game week. So Sterling will stay in, but he will blank next week. Then he doubles in 35, which isn't great, but if he's gonna play, I'd like to back him. And at the moment, I just cannot see Salah getting back into this side. They've got Southampton next, but then they've got Chelsea at home. So knowing my luck again, Salah's probably gonna absolutely bust everyone's chops this weekend and probably score a hat-trick against Spurs at home. But just for now, it felt like Sterling was the right move. So moving on to last week's predictions, you can see, so wild card, yeah, definitely would have avoided that last week. The West Ham game was crazy. I saw a lot of people do free hits, and I did suggest a free hit would have been a fine idea, but people have got like 3 West Ham defenders, and before the game it didn't look crazy because you would not have said Huddersfield Town will score 3 goals away from home, but that sort of cost a lot of people in their free hits. This game week looks like it's possibly the best for the free hit, but that is one hell of a template side that many people are going to have. And I mentioned this in a video last week. The idea at this, definitely pretty much every week you should be thinking this, is I'm trying to score more than everybody else. So if everyone has the same team and the same players and you just copy that, it makes it pointless because you might overtake some, but you're not going to overtake others. So it ends up kind of balancing out. So you kind of think outside the box in terms of that. So don't just copy other people's sides. But going back to the review, so play to avoid, there weren't really enough people to avoid last week because there were only 5 games last week. So it would have been silly to say to avoid anyone. But players to pick, I said Liverpool, they did get the win. It was 2-1. It was squeaky bum time. They should have really put Fulham away in that first half, and they were almost made to pay a silly goalkeeping error that gave away the penalty. So it is a tick to Liverpool, but this really could have been a cross because a lot of people went for Mane because he's been in red hot form and he did deliver. So I'm getting away with that tick because they won. So for the assists, it was Mane and Firmino. So 2 players got an assist. Milner and Mane scored, so people still scored, but they didn't get a clean sheet, which would have been expected, especially from me because I had Alexander-Arnold. Philippe Anderson left it mega late to get anything against Huddersfield. I did feel like they were going to dominate. But I said this as well, if there's a team that's going to mess up an easy fixture, it's going to be West Ham. But he left it, I think it was in stoppage time, to get that last gasp winner with Hernandez to get an assist, and that gave him 5 points. And Wilson was one of the few people to not get anything. King scored 2 goals, and they were his first 2 goals in a while. Atke and Solanke came off the bench and got an assist, so he's doing well as my enabler, as sort of my second to third choice substitute. For 4.7 million, he's actually come off and got a couple of points. That's his first additional points this season in terms of goals and assists. But the fact that it's 4.7 million, he may get a kick around of like 30 to 60 to even 90 minutes. I do think that he's still a good choice. Going on to plays to risk from last week, Barnes did nothing against Leicester City. They got beat 2-1, but Rondon scored in that game. Rondon scored in the game against Bournemouth when they almost got it, and they equalised in the last minute with Ritchie. And Tielemans got an assist in the 2-1 win at home to Burnley. So all in all, it was a decent week. 2 mistakes there. Wilson, I mean, if Bournemouth are going to score 2 goals in a game, you would assume Wilson has something to do with it, and he didn't. And Burnley are just having a really bad season. They were so good last year, a comfortable top 10 side, and they've really struggled this year. And Barnes, twice I've backed him there because his stats and his goal scoring form this season has been pretty good, but he did not get anything against Leicester. I did say that they were going to concede. Leicester do concede goals, but it was not Barnes who was the person who scored the goal. So moving on to the double game week suggestions, and we'll start with the low ones first. So just behind me here, you can see Huddersfield Town. Why Huddersfield Town? Because without seeming too bad, 1, they don't have a double game week. They just have 1 match away at Crystal Palace. And 2, you just can never back them at the moment. Even though they scored 3 goals against West Ham, it feels like it's been a while since I've really looked at a team and thought, there's just no one in that side that I would even put on my bench right now as fodder, because there's fodder on other teams that are worth it. It just feels like every time I watch Huddersfield, the distance now, they've left it so late that they can't even fight against relegation now. It's swimming against the tide. They're 99% down now, and I think the players are starting to understand that, and manager has already made some comments about them getting ready for next season. So it was great to see him in the Premier League. It's actually my mother's hometown, so I know it was great for the town, and it was a really good experience. It reminded me of when my hometown Blackpool were in the Premier League, but Blackpool gave a really good fight, and it feels like Huddersfield have gone down with a little bit of a whimper. Didn't really at any point look like they were going to stay up this season. So just avoid Huddersfield, no double game week, and the fact that they're just really the whipping boys right now. Next, Mo Salah. I'm just angry. He let me down again, triple captain. But the fact that no double game week and their 1 game this week is at home to Tottenham Hotspur, I don't think it's going to be easy. He's probably going to get a hat-trick because I've transferred him out of the side now. But for his price is dropping. I think he's 13.3 million now. In the last 5 game weeks, he's got 1 goal and assist. He's got 8 points in game week 26, 27, 28, 29, nothing, 30 assists, 31, nothing. So he's done nothing in the last 5 games except 1 assist and a couple of clean sheets, which it's an additional point. So for the price of 13.3 million, I've been able to get in Rashford and Sterling for Barnes and Salah making up the money there. So it's the same sort of maneuver I did at the early on in the season, where I thought I might as well take out 1 super expensive player to have 2 really good players, especially with double game week. So Salah, no double game week, playing Tottenham Hotspurs. And Newcastle, similar to Huddersfield, the reason why it's the main one this week is because Huddersfield is a bit of an obvious choice, but Newcastle, they've got 1 game, they've got no double game weeks, and their 1 game is away to Arsenal. So I think they have maybe the toughest fixture. I could have, again, easily put Cardiff in for this one. Cardiff, their double game week, they've got 2 games, right? So Newcastle, Huddersfield only have 1. Cardiff also almost made the cut because they've got Chelsea at home and Manchester City away. But at the end of the day, if you've got a player that plays both of those games, they're going to maybe get 3 or 4 points. Whereas Huddersfield only have 1, so if Huddersfield get trounced, they're going to get 0, 1 or 2. So even if a player plays 90 minutes in those games and they don't get too badly thumped, a Cardiff player might get some points, at least maybe 3 or 4 points. But I also have a little bit of a feeling that Cardiff could do something at home to Chelsea. I think Manchester City are going to batter them, but I think Cardiff are going to just park the bus away at Manchester City, which is fine. That's what they've got to do to try and survive. But at home to Chelsea, Chelsea is so inconsistent and unreliable this season that I genuinely think they might get something against Chelsea. So that's why they're not in my ones to avoid. I felt these three above me here were the better options. So going to player picks, I did mention Raheem Sterling. He absolutely killed it in the last game. Got a hat-trick in, I think it was 65 minutes. And then in the double game weeks, if he plays, he's got Fulham and Cardiff. Two of the weakest sides in the entire division. So even, I said this earlier, even if he doesn't play both of these games, if he just plays one game or he plays a little bit in both or the majority of one and a tiny bit in the other, I was still back Raheem Sterling to pick something up in this game. Also, Marcus Rashford, double game week. He's got Watford and he's got Wolves. They've had a bit of a rest and hopefully he's going to come back and get some goals. And Hazard as well. Now, Hazard and Chelsea for slightly different reasons as well, because they don't have a skipped game week. So they've got Cardiff and Brighton, two very good fixtures, teams that concede goals. But they also don't blank next game week. So the problem with Raheem Sterling and Marcus Rashford, City and United, is they're going to play this week and they're going to blank next week. Whereas Hazard, he's got a double game week now. He's not going to blank. He's got West Ham next week. So if you bring him in now, he's going to have 3 games in the next 2 weeks. So you don't have to worry about switching him out because... So a problem that I'm going to have is Sterling is going to be on the bench next week. So he's my most expensive player and he's going to be on the bench because he's not playing. So... it swings and roundabouts for Manchester City because it's sort of double and then nothing and then double, whereas Chelsea is double and then they just play. Okay, so they are the ones to pick. Now, to take a risk on, again, I'll start at the bottom. So the first one I'm going to go for is Jamie Vardy. I know he's not got a double game week. He's got 10% ownership, 10.2%, but his fixtures, I'm just thinking get him in now before his prices continue to rise. In terms of his form, since I brought him in, he's been absolutely fantastic for me. I think I got him in, I think it was game week 28, but since game week 26, he... in that crazy Tottenham game where he scored and I think he almost missed a penalty after coming off the bench, but in his last 4 games he scored 4 goals. So he blanked against Burnley in that 2-1 win away from home when they were only playing with 10 men for most of the game, but 3 games before that he scored 4 goals. So he's in good form. He's only got 1 game. It's against Bournemouth, who at home, who I do feel can concede against Leicester and Jamie Vardy. And then next week he's got Huddersfield, and the week after that he's got Newcastle United. So for the next 3 games, Jamie Vardy could go on a little bit of a goal scoring run here. So that's why I would suggest Jamie Vardy. David Silva, because you're looking at Manchester City and they've got Fulham, they've got Cardiff, but you're worried about which players are going to play, which are not going to play. And you've got De Bruyne, who is still injured, and you've got Fernandinho, who's carrying a knock. So Bernardo Silva will probably drop back, and I do feel that David Silva will be playing that advanced attacking role, and he has got 90 minutes in the last 3 games, and he's got 2 assists in the last 3 games as well. So there's never any doubt in my mind about David Silva's quality. It's if he's going to get rotated out consistently by Pep Guardiola, but he's played the last 3 games. De Bruyne has still got a knock. Quite a few of City's defenders have all got knocks, but Fernandinho and Kevin De Bruyne have both got knocks, and I do feel like he's going to play again in one of those 2 games. So Sane, the likes of Sane and Mahrez, it's 50-50. You don't know who's really going to play there. You could go for Bernardo Silva, but I do feel like with De Bruyne out, Bernardo Silva plays deeper, so David Silva would be the more attacking threat of the 2, I believe, in those games. So that's why I would say David Silva. And then finally, you can see right at the top there, Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, this might be a little bit of a weird one, but purely because Brighton have a double game week this week against Southampton and Chelsea. They do blank next week, but then they double and double. So in the next 4 game weeks, they double, blank, double, double. So they're playing 6 games in the next 4 weeks. So it did feel like And the next double is Bournemouth and Cardiff at home, and then Wolves, Spurs away. So Spurs will be tough, and I'm not saying Wolves won't be, but you're looking at Brighton, and this time around they've got Southampton at home. They should get something. Chelsea, you see that one of the two games in a double game week can be a throwaway. It's an additional, it's bonus points. So let's just say they're playing Southampton. You would back Southampton player, Bournemouth, Brighton players to get something at home against Southampton, and then bonus points against Chelsea. Next week they'll blank, but then after that they've got Bournemouth and Cardiff. So even if you take Bournemouth as the game, you might expect someone at Brighton to get some points. Cardiff is the bonus, and you would definitely expect Brighton players to score in that. And then you've got Wolves and Tottenham. You can even do half and half, but at the end of the day, it feels like with 3 double game weeks in the next 4 weeks, those would be the options for me. The only issue I have with Brighton is who do you bring in? You could argue Ryan. He's 4.4 million as the goalkeeper. I don't rely on Brighton's defense because they do concede, but they could get set pieces. So then you're looking at Dunk and Duffy at the back. Knockhart seems to be in really good form at the moment. He got an assist in the last game. He got 7 points in the last game week and 6 in the week before. So he's in a little bit of good form. So you might go with him, or you might go with Big Man Murray up front, 6.3 million. He scored in the last game, got 5 points, he played 90 minutes. So for me, it's just picking the right player at Brighton. So for me, I would probably go towards Knockhart, Murray. They would be the ones, or maybe even Ryan if you want a goalkeeper to earn a couple of extra points. So that's going to be it for me this game week. Let me know in the comments below what your actions are for this double game week. Are you worried about the template that I showed you earlier, or do you feel like people are going to be copying each other too much, and then those players are blank, and maybe your players who you're backing this game week will actually come to fruition for you and sort of get you those green arrows? But let me know in the comments below, guys. Thanks for your support and watching the video, and as always, have a good